Hey y'all, in today's designer class we're going to learn how to make slides. Slides are not utilized as often in digital scrapbooking kits as they used to be. When I first started scrapbooking, digital scrapbooking in 2005, they were very common and in almost every kit way back then. Often the slides are filled with paper, and so here's my preview here, and so often you would see the slides and it would look just like a frame made out of paper. And so I think people started saying, well, that's silly, that's a frame, that's not a slide. But I still think the concept of a slide is really cool. I made some that you could just stick a picture in, and I also made them with a little overlay so it almost looks more like a realistic slide. And these are the ones I made in the preview. But let's go to the file here. Here's the same one. Let's zoom in and take a look at it a little bit closer. Now what I did was I went to Flickr and I got this image off of Flickr. Somebody took an image, and you'll remember maybe if you're old enough the carousel slides. Carousel, like a carousel at a fair that you ride, but these were carousel projectors, and you put the slides in them and then projected it onto a screen. I remember my grandparents used to take photos or slides, however they were done, of all of their vacation trips, and we used to have to come over to their house and they'd put up their slide and the projector and narrate as they showed each slide of their vacation. And actually it was, as a young child, it was quite boring. But I think maybe from the traditional paper scrapbooking days, people probably took old slides such as these, as you see right here, and they probably punched out the center and used them as a frame in their scrapbooking pages. And so when digital scrapbooking first came alive, they were trying to emulate paper scrapbooking as much as they could, and so that's why they were more popular back then. But now, as the time has evolved, I think people are not seeing the concept of slides. Slides in paper scrapbooking, I can imagine, might have paper cut and glued to them and then mounted onto their pages over their photos. Maybe they'd have to be pretty little photos, though, I would imagine. But anyway, I decided I just wanted to make some realistic slides rather than those that are just made out of paper. And so I looked at this photo here and I tried to make it digitally. So as you see this photo here, it has these little dots here and here and here and here, and it's consistent, the funky angle of them here and here and here and here. And you also see a little bit of a texture to it, and you also see a title. I imagine every slide has the same title. Maybe when you sent them off to be developed, you told them what you wanted for the title, and probably they were all the same. And so you can see that's where I made mine. Now, when you make your slides for this class, you can make them however you want, and you can make them unique. If you want to take your shape and use one of your papers and cut it, you can do so. If you want to put these little dots on there or leave them out, you can do so. If you want to get really crazy with it and maybe have a little bit of one of the corners turned up, or put a ribbon around one of them, anything you can do to make your slides unique and different from all the other things that are available out there, is going to make your kit all the more better. If you can think of different text than what I've put on mine, I have Made on the USA down here and a title, and when I saved mine, I saved it totally blank, because obviously not everybody's going to live in the USA. I saved it with just the title up here and just the title down here. I saved it in a variety of ways. Yeah, anything you can think of to make it go with the theme of your kit. If you wanted to add, let's say you have a car kit and you've made a little car sticker. If you wanted to add that along the bottom of one of these, you know, whatever. You need to use your imagination and make yours unique. But I'll show you the basics of making this slide. It's, of course, very simple, even though this one here took me a very long time to make. I'm just going to leave this up as it is, and I went to the rounded rectangle tool, and this, if you observe it, this is square, a square piece, the piece of cardboard, but the hole that is knocked out of it is actually a rectangle. And so that allows it to have more space on the top and the bottom than on the sides. So we're going to make this square, and we're going to click this down arrow and choose square, and go ahead and, and I tried various things. I noticed that the corners are a little bit rounded, but they aren't too rounded. So I tested and tested until I found a good setting, and I've got mine at a radius of 25 to make those rounded corners. And then I'm just going to simply draw, and my shape is made, and I'm going to go ahead and simplify my shape. What I did next was to get the dropper tool, and I just went out here and clicked on this photo to get the color of it from this for mine, and you're going to see it's kind of a green. Actually, I was a little bit surprised, but you can see the settings here. If you want this color for your slides, 54H 20S, and your B is 81. Or if you're going to RGB, 206, 202, and 164. Or if you want the number here, it's SECAA4. So if you want to use that color, if you like what I did here, that is the color. I think I might have modified it a little bit later after I had added my pattern fill, but not much. So I'm going to get my paint bucket and fill that in with the color. You can see the color's a little, I did make it a little bit lighter. Well, let's leave it there for right now. Let's make the hole now, and I'm going to make a new layer. Actually, I don't think I did it that way. Actually, I think I went ahead and got the rectangle tool. No. Yeah. And just used unrestrained. The other one I utilized the rounded rectangle. This one I just used the rectangle tool. And I used unrestrained, and I just kind of eyed it. And I made a rectangle. And you can see it's not centered, but then we're going to fix that. I'm going to go ahead and fill that with a different color using my paint bucket tool, just so that I can see it. Now I'm merely using this as a template. And I just kind of looked at this and saw how the distance from the edge for how wide to make my rectangle. And then I held down my control key and clicked on this layer and this layer, and I went to the align. Oops, I didn't get them both selected. There we go. Go to the align drop down menu and click vertical centers and then horizontal centers, and you can see that centered that up for me. And then I held down my control key, clicked on the thumbnail of this template layer, so I got my marching ants, and then switched down to my shape layer and hit delete. Control D to deselect, and I'm going to throw away this template shape layer. Now I have a great start, and I could use this as a template now and just stick one of my papers I've made on a layer above it and hit Control G, and that might be my slide, and you might call it done. But I'm going to show you what else I did to this. I made then a pattern fill layer, and I'm going to go ahead and look at this because I don't remember what I used. I believe I used the brush pen on a canvas. So I'm going to go back to this one that we're making and create a new create a new adjustment layer for a pattern, and find that pattern, and I think it was this brush pen on a canvas. Click OK. Yes, I think that was it. And then I'm going to hit Control G to group them, and now you're going to see I have some texture on my slide, but it now needs to be blended so I can get that original color back, and I believe I used the luminosity, and now you can see it's more like the color of this one over here, but you can see that the texture's a little too strong. This is the texture I ended up with, and this is the texture as we have it right now. So to change that, I just lowered the opacity till you get it just so it's a slight texture on there. And then you can see this is the point where I decided I really didn't think the color was quite right, and so I went back to my original shape tool and I just used the sliders a little bit until I got a color that I liked a little bit better. I think I just knocked the lightness down. And now we have a nice texture to our slide. It's not just plain. And a good color. You can leave it whatever color you want, but when I did the blending, it actually changed the color on me. Now I needed to make the drop shadow. Let's take this off and I'll show you. Add the white layer, and you can see a little bit better. To make your slide realistic, you need a drop shadow around the inside of your slide, and it needs to go all the way around. This would be like a custom drop shadow that we would apply. You can see when it is utilized, then the drop shadow on the inside becomes more than the drop shadow on the outside. You can see how it looks here. It looks even better when you have a photo behind it right here. And so we are going to go back to the file I'm working on, and what I did for mine to make it as simple of a project as could be was I duplicated Control J, my shape layer, and then I went to the bottom one and just added a regular drop shadow, the soft edge one, but this is too high and it only goes on the two edges. So I'm going to go into my settings and lower that distance. It's the distance that makes it come up on all the edges, and I think I had my distance at maybe, it was either 1 or 2. you know, or even all the way down to 0. Lower the size just a tad also, because you just want it to be ever so slight in there. But the problem with this now, with what we have, is that the drop shadow is along the outer edges also, and we don't want that. We want people to be able to apply their own drop shadow out there. And so what I did was to grab my rectangle marquee tool and just make a selection and right click and inverse the selection, and then hit delete on my keyboard. So I was deleting everything out here. If you want to see what it looks like now, it looks like this. And so I cut it so it was smaller, and it's kind of hiding on the layer underneath, so that that special drop shadow is showing in there. So now we could be done if we wanted to, but I decided I wanted to make these little rivets, I guess you could call it, in there. And actually, I think this texture's still a little too strong. I'm gonna drop it down just a little bit more, about to 25. So to make the rivets, that was pretty easy to do after I went through the silly old thought process. I just simply got the rounded or the ellipse tool down here, and I made a, oops, let's hold down the shift key so it's makes a circle instead of an oval, and hit simplify, and you can see I got a funky color here, which is okay because let me go up here. I named them so I could do a sneak peek. Simple sharp pillow. Okay, then I just applied the visibility layer style, and I made it invisible, so it really doesn't matter what color you make your circle. And then I went to the bevels and I applied the simple sharp pillow emboss. Now you can see that's way too big, and so grab your settings and bring it all the way down and play with it. I think I had mine about on a 3 or even a 2, 3 maybe, I don't remember what it was. And now we have the outer circle, but we needed to make the inner circle, so grab my shape layer, because it's a circle already, Control J, and make it smaller and center it up. But now it doesn't look the same. I needed a different layer style, and so I named this one Simple Outer Down. So I'm going to click on this and change this one to Simple Outer. Now it looks funny. You can see how it looks like it's coming off the page. So I went into my style settings and I changed this up to down, and then I lowered it down to just a small amount, 2 or 3, and you can see now it looks a lot like this one over here. And I actually went and linked both of those layers together so that then I could move them and place them. But you can see how it looks very much like these little bobble things that go down in there now. So that's how I did that, and then I just merely took both of those layers and drug them down to the new layer icon and moved them, and I just kept moving them around till I got them all centered. So that's how I made those. Next I got a font that was a copyright friendly font, and after I put that font on there, let's go to this layer, and here it is. This was the original one, and what I did was duplicated it to save the original and turn that off, and then right click, simplify, and I grabbed my eraser tool and I found a grungy font. This one's under wet media brushes and a dry brush on a towel. You can use any grungy one. I lowered the opacity. I've got mine down to 32, and then just kind of grunged this up. You'll see my color choice is a gray instead of a black, and then I grunged it up. So that's how I made my text to look a little bit more realistic. You'll notice that I also have here and here some little grungy marks, like some of the ink or some of the oil from going through the projector got onto my, here's a couple more, and I just kind of spread them out. I used a brush to make this line also, and I believe I used one of these similar brushes, probably the rough round bristle, to make the line. And when I got to the end of the line, I kind of made a little extra scribble with the brush to make it look like I'd actually drawn across the page, and kind of jiggled my hand when I got to the end to make that more realistic. But going back, same thing for these little bitty lines. Let's go back down here where we were playing on the other one. Here's the other one. I'm going to make a new layer, and I believe I had used this, I don't remember which brush I used. I don't think it really matters. It wasn't that one because it was a small one. Let's see what happens. No. Scatter dry brush. Oh, no. One that's scattered. Well, it was one of these brushes. I think it was that one. That one will work, even if so. Heavy oil flow small tip, which makes sense if this is oil from a machine. And so and I don't even think it was that one. I think it was this one, oil small tip. Maybe not, but I just kind of made a few things, and then come back with that eraser brush and lightened them up. Of course, I didn't do a very good job right here because I clustered them all together. But you just kind of want to make a little mark here or there. Let's try this brush. Oh, that one scattered them all out. No, we don't want that one. I don't even remember which brush I used. But like I said, then you come back with this and erase and lighten that up some, so it looks more of a scattered. And if you need to, I don't even remember, I could have ink splatters is what I called them. I changed it to a luminosity blending mode, and so if we come back down here where we were playing, I can change that to luminosity, and it would be a lot better too. So that's about how I did it. It just takes, this is the part where you need to be a little bit artistic to be able to do these little paint splatters. Got to find the right brush. That is the key. Ooh, and that would not be it. I think this one, right here, I think that was maybe what I used. And you just put a few little things out there and then come back and soften them up with the eraser tool. And even lower the opacity if you need to, because you want them to be real subtle. See, that don't look bad right there, what I just did. So that's how you make the slides. And like I said, get creative if you want to get more of a paper scrapbooky type of thing going on. I think these bevels here are too deep. I think 2 is better than 3. See, this 2 looks better than this 3 over here. Sometimes just the slightest little thing will make a huge difference. And this is where I played for a long time till I got mine looking just right. So yeah, use your imagination. If you want to make just a very simple one and out of your papers, or add ribbons to it, or that wrap around, or anything like that that you can get creative on, maybe hang something from one of them. Whatever you want to do to make yours unique for your kit, go for it. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with for this challenge.